I thought we could just have a generalized kind of chat, right? I don't want to be too formal about it. I think it's just there's some, interesting commonalities. I should do some kind of introduction. I'm very lackluster about these things. I'm never going to be a YouTube megastar. Thank God.
That's okay.
It's all right. It's fine. So we were both had games nominated last year in the ENnie Awards, and this year Back a Kit have teamed up with the ENnie Awards to do this ENnies Emporium event, which we were both invited to, and we have taken part in, and it's going pretty well. And it finishes probably tomorrow, as this will be going out. Like, there's not long left to get on board. It was a fairly short, funding period, which is good. I like that. And so our game was Maskwitches: The Forgotten Dogland. Do you want to tell us a bit about your game, Federico?
Yeah, mine is Zephyr, an anarchist game of fleeting identities. And we kind of connected through. Oh, I have Maskwitches over there.
Weird across the world. Weird.
Yeah. But we kind of connected because of a thing about influences, also like the sort of inspiration that we draw upon. There's a lot of stuff you can read in the Maskwitches section that talks about bibliography and what you've drawn upon. A lot of text and research on archaeology that's really cool because it at least to me it was like shocker, because suddenly I was like, hey, someone that's reading more or less the same stuff that I'm reading. I was reading for Zephyr, a lot of the anthropology of stateless societies, research on the origin of states, the kind of societies and institutions that gestated with the origin of agriculture and all of that. So it's a pretty cool well to draw upon, I think.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting. I was just sort of refreshing my memory with Zephyr, and I think your text is a lot more explicit about the sort of political inspirations. And I think that's really interesting because I was a lot more explicit about the kind of, the sort of archaeology, anthropology stuff, but they go to the same place, right? We're using them for the same thing, which is that things have not always been the way they are now. And perhaps, with me, it's really, I'm quite cautious about it, but I absolutely mean it, that they will not always be the way they are now as well. And it's about, I think there's that commonality of sort of inspiring, imagine it. You've got to be able to imagine it for it to happen. And I think it's really important that we remember things are not a given. Who was I listening to today? I was listening to someone that was going, oh, this is just how it is, though. And I was like, yeah, only for like 100 years.
Well, yeah, because like we're sort of like trapped into this sort of like vortex of like, tech determinism. Like, everything has to move forward in this precise direction and stuff like that. And it's precisely these sort of like, imaginative ROMs that we're trying to bring to the audiences that we have, I think, that are, I guess, trying to challenge that a bit, being like, people have always had agency over their political direction, the way their societies took shape. That's kind of the idea. And it's what you get when you start delving into, the archaeological, the historiographical research that there's out there. It's pretty cool.
It's almost like if you read anything, there's almost like a very small number of texts that if you read, you move in a particularly nasty authoritarian direction. Whereas if you read almost anything else, you'll go in the other direction. Just read. I'm always trying to encourage people to read as much as you can, or listen to audiobooks and everything. I'm always keen to say that as well. It's not about just reading, And what was I was looking for a quote. Hang on, I've got the book here. People in the know might roll their eyes when they see this because, it's a classic of the form, right? This is Clive Gamble's The Paleolithic Societies of Europe. And I thought in the introduction of this, he talks about how the past has always been a place where people have projected radical ideas. And if I don't want to malign Clive Gamble, or not necessarily maligning anyone, but I don't want to get it wrong. I'm not sure that it was his book. Somebody in one of the many books I read had said this, that it's a canvas on which to project onto, but warns almost against it for, like, students of archaeology and anthropology. Don't be, but I thought,
Totally.
but I don't have to follow that instruction because I'm
Yeah,
making a
no.
fantasy game, right? It's a fantasy game, so we can build on that stuff in the way we want.
Yeah, that's the advantage. We're sort of like really just painting over that speculative sort of like realm. That's really, yeah, just an exercising, uh, trying to see how things could be different. And it's pretty cool because, like as you said, even if you read just a little bit, you just realize just how different it is from like established perceptions, and it's getting like that even more. Like when you see the most recent research on archaeology and anthropology, stuff like what's discovered at Poverty Point or Çatalhöyük, stuff like people, anyone like you could encounter that would say, oh, but like the egalitarian societies were very small and stuff. And it's like, no, we can just point at, like, I don't know, Poverty Point and be like, there's evidence here of like a society of thousands and thousands of people living in an urban place, and mostly hunting, mostly
Right.
doing hunting and gathering, and it's pretty cool to see that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm aware we have dived right into talking about sort of theories underpinning what we do. So in Zephyr, you play as like little guys, right? You're like little. What are the
Yeah.
characters that you play in it with the underpinning of this sort of egalitarian, speculative anthropological exercise? What's the little guy that you get to be?
So you get to be a windfolk, which is basically like a sentimental construct. It's a construct, so you can come up with your own sort of like elements. It could be wood, it could be ash, it could be, rocks, anything really that they're kind of made of wood and seed pods in the illustrations that you see. But it could be anything, but it's all held together by this substance called Zephyr, which they interpret as being the feelings of the world they inhabit. Yeah, it's pretty cool because you there's also the physicality of it, which I really like in games. Which is basically you're playing with these tokens that represent the Zephyr and the four colors, the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And they play a bit of like a board game sort of thing. You have a system that is designed to like move these tokens around and see how they flow between your body and the world outside. Because it deals with like the stuff we're made of. It really lends itself to survival gameplay. Like you're running out of them, or you don't have a balanced combination of them. You're more liable to like be ill or suffer through more hardship in the journey. So yeah, really just playing with that. But it's also really cool to say, this is how they look, that look at the world. This is their worldview, how they interpret everything to be made of, and it's mechanized in the game. So yeah, that's something that I think is really rich about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it's really interesting how it's not. It does make you think about other games that are available and well known, that it casts a bit of a light on why are they like that, right? I mean, I understand why they. I'm not a big. I'm talking about D&D, obviously. Okay, um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm suddenly getting all coy about naming, but traditional games, right? Traditional games where it's sort of you're managing resources and they're under threat, and you almost, they're the stakes that you have stuff that you can lose. And I thought Zephyr presents in a really different way, and centering sort of feelings and emotions and the view of the world. It's really interesting, and it makes you think about, well, why are other games not like that, or why are they doing the thing they're doing, which often we just take for granted, right? And
Yeah.
I never want to get. I'm not a person that gets into hating on those games because I get why they exist, right? And I get what I quite like them, you know,
Yeah, of
while
course.
also liking all kinds of other things as well. And I don't always want to be doing that, but sometimes I get why people enjoy it. But it's really interesting to go, well, what's not that? What else could be true? In the same way we're talking about, whether they're imaginary or prehistoric societies and the way things are ordered. I think is really interesting. Um, yeah, no, cool. I suppose I
Yeah, pretty
should just,
much.
I, I, I'm going to default to end up just interviewing you, Fed, but like I should talk about
No, no,
Maskwitches as well, really.
I actually wanted to drive it to this point because I mentioned physicality, and
Mm,
that's something that it's so present in Maskwitches,
right, yeah.
and it's just astounding to look at the art and the impact that physicality and your process. It's something I would like to ask you about
Sure.
in terms of you imagining these societies. You're also because you're if you haven't seen the art for Mask Witches, it just features this incredible photo shoots of like actual objects that John crafted that are essentially, you know, stand-ins or actually objects that the people of Mask Witches, the witches would craft themselves, all of these fetishes and different amulets of sorts, the masks themselves, of course. They all have like the process that you've gone into. And when you're doing that and being physical about it and just like crafting them yourself, you're sort of you yourself stepping into the shoes of those
Mhm.
characters as you create the elements of the game and the art. And I think that's super cool.
It's
And yeah,
so I was going to interrupt to just say it's interesting that Paul Beakley from the Indie Game Reading Club. Poor Paul. I talk about this all the time because it really stuck with me. And Paul is a great guy, and I think he's really astute. But so it frightened me when he said that Maskwitches has almost no setting. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Almost like, but the settings in the artwork, right? It
the
bleeds right
setting,
into the
yeah.
artwork. And it's been really interesting talking to Paul and some of the people connected to Paul about I got some weird ideas about that that I just take for granted. But like you say, it's like stepping in, it's going into a place and bringing something back is kind of part of the process. But sorry, I interrupted. Anyway, that was,
Yeah, no, actually, I had a question, which
Mm.
was essentially, what was your process when it comes to creating this? Like, do you, um, how much do you reach into traditional techniques for crafting those pieces? And when you do so, do you feel yourself sort of like, role playing as the mask witches in a
So,
way?
some stuff I do, like I'm going to be completely honest. Some stuff I have had some really interesting experiences where I suddenly, for example, I was wanting to make a harpoon, right? Because these antler
Right.
harpoons are very sort of. I wonder if I can reach one. Yeah, look, I've got one here. I did not set this up, but they're lying around. So I wanted to make these sort of harpoon. This one in particular is a real. It's a copy of a. I think it's a bit bigger. That's better that way around
Yeah.
in real life. But I wanted to photograph them. Scale doesn't matter, which I think is really really interesting
Hmm.
because in a lot of this kind of societies that I would be drawing on for inspiration have different ideas about scale and distance and time and all that kind of stuff. So scale being weird within the game, the way the artwork made is totally appropriate. But so with this one, I'd sort of, but this is I didn't have any antler to carve of this size. Even though I live in Scotland, it's really hard to get antler. I found
Yeah, of
weirdly, you
course.
would think there'd be loads of it, but I think it all gets sold for dog chews before people like me can get my mitts on
Oh,
it.
Jesus.
So I think I don't think this was made from what's it called polymer clay that you bake in the oven. And I was carving it,
Hmm.
and I suddenly realised I had made, which won't be within reach. I had made the Mesolithic in sort of northwest Europe is really renowned for its microliths, like little tiny flint blades that are set into tool handles with like
Hmm.
pine pitch and that kind of thing. And I had one that I'd made that had real flint flakes in, and I was like, I can carve this with the actual tool. And then it was really, really
Yeah.
interesting because it had all these different shaped blades. Because I didn't quite understand those tools. I mean, I don't think anyone does fully understand why there was this change to this microlithic technology. No one really knows. But actually, it worked a bit like a sort of Swiss Army knife or Leatherman tool. We had all these blades available to do different jobs, and I suddenly thought, oh, that's really, really interesting. I'm
Yeah.
not a sort of into recreating things and theorizing about it in any serious way, but you get these little glimpses where you just go, oh, okay, that's really interesting. A lot of stuff, I will be completely honest, is props and it is made for the photo op, right? So it's not,
Right.
sometimes by accident I get carried away and make things that are a little bit more elaborate than they need to be. But I use it, I use whatever I've got that I think will get the image, make an image. So it's kind of there's a level of theatre. I'm really interested in puppets, which again I think is interesting in Zephyr. There's this idea of puppets and role playing
Hmm.
games and puppets. I think is really really interesting because our characters are kind of like puppets, and those layers that you can build into things I think are fascinating. Um, Oftentimes I try and do as much as I can in camera. Oh, again,
Hmm.
I should have. If I'd have known, I would have. I've recently been pouring resin discs, these big resin discs, and setting petals and things in them, so I can photograph the models through a like sort of glass disc. As I keep saying, like
Oh,
that.
yeah, as a filter. Yeah.
Yeah, the sort of hottest special effects of 1930s German expressionist cinema.
Yeah.
But and again, I could try to keep it all in the camera as much as I can. I use a smoke machine rather than overlaying. I could just digitally overlay everything, and there is a certain amount of digital painting and sort of matte painting that goes on. But I try and do it as much as possible in camera. I don't really know why. There's not a specific reason. It just feels right. And over time, I mean, I've been working on it a couple of years now, and there's definitely a way of doing Maskwitches things. I don't
Yeah.
poke at too hard, right? I just let it happen, which is cool. So you got
Yeah, it's
your stuff's painted, right? And you learned to paint to do Zephyr.
yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of a wild process because I remember getting the computer where I could actually draw on 2018, and I started like experimenting. And my friend Liv, who like still lives in Argentina. Like now I'm back here, of course, but back then I was in London. Started basically teaching me over Skype or Discord or something. Like we would meet every weekend or twice a week. And I did that for about 1 year, 2 years until 2020. It's just like sometimes you hit this sort of like piece that you draw and you're like, whoa, this there's been a leap here.
Right. Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
those pieces every now and then. And that I drew a piece that I was like, okay, I feel like I'm confident about drawing this whole book. And it was really cool.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and after that, well, it was like 4 years of drawing for Zephyr.
Wow. That's amazing.
But really, like, I think that's like now if I can whip up a piece in like 45 minutes and it'll be book ready
Okay.
and
Yeah.
stuff. Because I've been drawing so many Windfolk, and the style is so established. But it also eventually does make you want to try new things, of course. And certainly, like throughout these years and thinking about how these societies live and also like seeing, for example, what you've done with Maskwitches and the
Mm.
whole aspect of physicality to it, which I think is something that you might have thoughts on it, the way we are sort of like connecting, maybe not with like a particular reason in mind, but trying to do stuff physically.
Hmm.
Kind of runs counter to the tendency of like we have to have all of our games digitally and with all of the online tools and stuff to run, and it's a bit of a counter current for
Yeah.
that.
Right.
At least for me, it's important to sort of like have that stuff of the physical world, the analog sort of thing, and be in touch with it. I don't know how you think about that.
Yeah. I really have to be careful what I say so I don't offend anyone. Why am I worried about that? But I do worry about that. I'm so nice. Yeah, I'm really into. For me, like role playing games are sitting around a table with my friends, and it's really really important. It's not that I'm against like VTTs or whatever. Or the ability to tell stories and play games with your friends across the internet was absolutely vital in COVID. It's seen a huge boom in what we do and all that stuff. I understand that, but I really really like getting together with friends, and I really like. I don't know if you've seen. I've become really obsessed with making tokens out of resin at the moment. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I've tidied them all away.
Yeah, you've
Hang
showed me.
on. Oh, I would swore to myself I wouldn't stand up on camera, but I'm gonna edit this
Go
bit
ahead.
out. I'm gonna like right, hang on. Well, because we've got some like crazy stuff here. Right. Trade and trade things. So I've been making these. so this kind of size, and inside that there's a little
Hmm.
landscape, like underwater landscape, and it's got this like glow in
Oh,
the dark material that's like these like eutrophication suite, these ones I call them, where they're all like algae blooms that glow in the dark. And what else am I
that's so
making? These
cool.
ones are really bonkers. Oh yeah, these big ones that are. This is a. It's not going to come out on camera, but this is a copy of a an amulet found at Star Car pendant, the Star Car pendant, which is a
Oh, look.
Mesolithic sort of weird
Hmm.
kind of settlement hunting camp meat processing place they found in Yorkshire in the UK. And I've copied the pendant and embedded them. So I would use in the next game I play of Maskwitches, I'm going to be using these massive. It's absolutely ridiculous. But again, scale is kind of interesting and making these kind of underwater. Again, it won't come out on camera, but there's like a sunken forest inside that bit. And maybe I'll edit
Oh,
some
that's so
pictures.
cool.
But yeah, physicality is really, I think it's really interesting. I think the artwork being photographs of real things is kind of exciting and different. Who was it? Was it Matt from Rome Rook and Descartes was saying to me at UK Games Expo, why is nobody else doing that? Like, why is, I mean, I'm sure there are people doing it. There's a couple of, there's
Yeah, there are people.
there are people doing it, but it's not really, really common. And of course, digital painting is the thing, which I'm, and I haven't got anything against digital painting. Thank you, digital painting, for giving me a career for the last 20 years. I've certainly
Yeah.
got nothing against that. But it is weird, isn't it? We tend to be, I know you've got strong opinions on this. How we view artwork in games is kind of interesting, I think, and often unexamined in some ways. You just got to get it, haven't you? You've just got to get loads of art, get
Yeah.
art, spend loads of money on art. Yeah, do to pay me, but also think about it.
Yeah, I think that especially like to those of us that have been doing a lot of it, I don't know. And I talked to Liv, my mentor, and she's also like constantly trying like new stuff in traditional, doing lithography, for example. Now, we brought back like a bunch of lithography supplies from the UK now with the UK Games Expo rump. Because yeah, we enjoy everything that digital painting brings us and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
the more we delve into it, I think we're like, gosh, I wish to have like a different relationship with the haptics of it. There's something about the experiential of the traditional medium that is
Yeah.
just I think we're sort of like craving for.
Hmm.
Um, and for example, in Japan, I took the chance and got like a nice set of like woodworking tools because I always like netsuke. Netsuke is basically it's basically a craft in which you sort of like you have these wood carved figurines that used to wrap around the obi and the sash of the kimono so that you would have a bit of a pocket. And these were very specific, sort of like ornate objects that I was fascinated by
Hmm.
because they're always, they're very usually showing in like animal motifs and I really wanted to learn how to do that. So I got a carving kit and started carving, and I started doing some windfolk. Unfortunately, I don't
Oh wow.
have, um, yeah, I don't have any like. I have like one that I started doing, but it's
Uh-huh.
just like a
Yeah,
sketch
just yeah,
of like
sure.
an earthen folk. You
Oh
can see
yeah,
the
yeah,
shape.
yeah.
I had one that was completed, but I can't see it here. But
Send me a
just like
picture. I'll edit it in.
yeah, yeah, totally. And doing these windfolk fetishes because I really wanted to be like, okay, there's many objects in the societies of the
Mm.
windfolk, but the fetishes are very particular. So I want to try and make one myself. I want to
Hmm.
get a knife, get a bit of wood, and start carving and see how it feels. And it was really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the things that I don't know. I felt really nice connecting with that physicality of it all. Um, there's other stuff that I'd like to do, like for example, like thinking through like doing that sort of thing and inspired me to think about like the way Windfolk interacted with the physicality of things. There's a custom, for example, that's related to an institution they have called shedding, which is the idea that if you're taking a life when you're hunting, um, you yourself have to bleed for that. It's a bit of a an exchange. You're an arrow, or throwing a javelin or a spear or something. You are essentially sealing an obligation with the creature you're hunting. And the same thing, Windfolk and Zephyr, they think everything in terms of obligations towards other entities. So it's like, okay, I'm taking a life, but I'm also giving some blood to the earth. And so for that, I was like, what if the hunting implements for the Windfolk, the particularity was not especially in the shape or the type of hunting implements that they used, but that they sort of like laced the handle of these implements with some really spiky brambles and thorns, so that when you grabbed onto that and you exerted strength to throw that on, or to tense the bowstring, you would bleed. So I was like, okay, that's a very striking image. It makes the objects in the world that are used for hunting very particular. If you see a bow with a handle full of like thorns and brambles, it's a Zephyr bow. Same with a hunting spear. So I think thinking at physicality and starting to go through the projects of organically seeing how these objects fit into the society just leads you to cool ideas. And I don't know, like, how you've thought about that in Maskwitches, about the different objects and the place they occupy in the setting.
Sure. Yeah, I think the big one that I've been dealing with a lot, and again trying to layer it somewhat. I can see we're running out of time, so I'm going to talk really quick. Oh, we got 10 minutes. I can fit in another ramble easy. There was this idea of I really like the idea of sort of recording information with things like textiles and weaving. From our Beowulf game, I did a lot of research into sort of early medieval ideas where weaving, using tablet weaving in the early medieval period, which is completely unconnected to Maskwitches, but this is where it starts, is computational. It's you using tablets that are programmed, they're programmed shapes, and you turn them through the process of weaving, and you're doing sort of computation with that, and you're recording information from the movement of those tablets, is recording information in the physicality of the braid or whatever that you make. And I started to think about, I did a lot of reading about all kinds of different. I'm really, really cautious about how careful I am about anthropology, because I do not think we should go off to contemporary hunter-gatherer societies and go, oh, those people do that now. So 10,000 years ago, it was, this is completely wrong. And I warn against this in the book. But there is a lot of inspiration in the culture of the world, right? And, so you sort of read as much as you can. And for Maskwitches, I sort of synthesized that a bit into the idea of these bead nets that are like nets of beads, literally, that record whatever information it is that your story needs to be held within them. In the new book, in the Maskwitch's Companion, GM's Companion, which we're just laying out right now, I talk a lot about what it is and what it isn't, and there is the layer of the story. It doesn't matter who can read them, who can't read them, what they say. It just is a way to impart information within the story layer, if you like. But in the world, beads. We know people in the Mesolithic were really unhinged for beads, like really don't, but you can understand why. And with arguably quite a lot of time on their hands, time is very different when in hunter-gatherer societies. It's not a 9-to-5 job, what is it, a red deer will feed a family of 5 for like 10 days and all that, this kind of stuff. Time is very, very different. Just recording things and distances and maps. I like the idea that a net of beads, with woven together beads, is like a map. They don't use maps as we would use maps, like a bird's eye view. That's not a thing that is perceived within the world. I've had some really interesting conversations with some fans who haven't understood why I haven't put maps, like contemporary maps, into scenarios. Number one, the way the game works doesn't need that. It doesn't work that way. The GM is not preparing a set map that you explore. You create the map as you play. It's that kind of game. But also the people in the world it just wouldn't make any sense to them whatsoever. That kind of fixed map would just be weird and wrong, and a picture like what is that? Which I really like that stuff, and a lot of it comes from thinking about that, just difference in perception, distance measured in rhythms and things like that. Is kind of cool.
It reminds me of there was something in Scott's book in Seeing Like a State that there's a big section talking about maps and tracking of time and someone I think probably like given his his research area probably like about asking directions in some place in Southeast Asia and being told, oh, this place is, 2 boilings of rice
Right.
away
Yeah.
in that
Yeah. Yeah.
direction.
Wow. Yeah.
So, of course, if you were there exactly, you would know how long it would take to boil rice. It would make sense. It's part of like that vernacular thing
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
that makes it really, immersive, I think.
And it's all to do. I'm absolutely fascinated by setting up a setting for a role-playing game that is just a change in material conditions, right?
Yeah.
That if things work this way, everything else follows from it. I think that's really interesting. And clearly you've done that with Zephyr as well. That's like, if this is true and this is true and this is true, there's a game setting, like the dominoes tumble in a certain way. That's really
Yep.
interesting, isn't it? It's really good. Well done, us.
Hmm.
But no, it's cool. It's cool. So we should sort of wrap up before we get cut
Yeah.
off. So the ENnies Emporium is hopefully open when people see this still. I expect we'll have a bit of late pledges and things going on. I'm not sure exactly how that will work. No one knows how
Yeah,
any of this
probably.
works. Just a mystery.
Yeah.
We'll see when you get there. And so you can if you just search ENnies Emporium, you'll probably find us, I would have thought. And of course, we've not mentioned if you back both of our campaigns, you get loads of free stuff. You get like this
We got free stuff,
ungodly
yeah.
amount of free stuff. Because from you, what is it, Nibiru? Is it your
Yeah,
first
I'm
game?
checking out
Amazing.
Nibiru. If you going back Maskwitches, so do it, please.
Yeah, do it.
And yeah,
Yeah, and we're giving away A State if you back Zephyr
yeah.
and
If
Maskwitches.
you back
You get
Zephyr,
A
you get
State second
A
edition
state.
free in PDF. That's our whole game. What are we doing? It's
Yeah,
crazy. See, other
it's two
people are
for
going, oh, you
one.
can have some digital stickers or something. They're like, what? We're giving away entire
Two for
games
one, or
here.
better yet, 4 for 2.
Yeah, 4 for 2. Wow.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, cool. That's really good. And
yeah,
well, it's been lovely to speak to you. I feel like we could do this again and talk loads more.
yeah. Of course, because like there's so much overlap that
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really interesting. Oh, yeah, it was interesting to see that. Of course, I had forgotten that there was. You've got comic book stuff in Zephyr, and I've just started writing a
Yes.
Maskwitches comic, and loads of people are going, "Why don't you do a comic?"
Oh yes.
And I started
It's so
out in
good.
comics, so I should. We need to do all these things. A stop
Yeah,
motion
yeah, yeah.
animation I've started doing as well.
It's a whole other subject, comics. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. But amazing. Well, listen. Thanks for taking the time to come and chat. I don't want to say come and chat
Yeah.
as if there's a space, a place, a physical place
Yeah,
that
it's just a
you have
chat.
come to.
Hmm.
I'm in my house.
Yeah.
Weird, but super.
But
All
yeah, that was
right.
great, John.
Yeah. No. Nice one.
Cool.
I'm gonna stop recording now, and everyone go and
Thanks.
quickly back both of our campaigns immediately,
Yeah.
please.
Back to campaigns. Thanks, guys.
Recording settings. What happens here? Oh yeah.